And I think the waiting room is clear right now. I'm sure some more people will join us later, but let's start for now. Hello,
Right.
everybody, and welcome to our Game Starter event for games programming. For those of you who haven't joined one of our Game Starter events yet, that's Game City Hamburg event series, directed especially to career starters like students, pupils, everyone who is looking to start their career in the games industry. And for this purpose, we always invite some experienced industry professionals who already work in that job and who are willing to give us some insights and answer some questions. But before we start, a couple of things. Oh, sorry. You should know that this event will be recorded and we are also live streaming on Facebook. We will also publish the video later on YouTube. That's also where you can find our other Game Starter events as YouTube videos. So just so you know that you are being recorded. We would like to ask everyone to keep their microphone muted, except for our experts, of course. And you can post questions into our chat at any time. You can also post your questions into the Miro board that we posted the link into the chat here in Zoom, wherever you like. And feel free to post questions at any time. We will try to ask them when it's the right time in the subject we're currently discussing. And we will also have some time in the end of the event where we will especially go into questions from our audience. Also, if you like, please turn on your camera so we have some nice faces to look into. You don't have to, of course, but it's always nicer to see some faces. And after this event, we'll be very happy to stay in touch with you. We have the Game City Discord server. Maybe you're already on it, maybe not. If not, you are very much invited to go there. You can find anything from community networking to job offers. You can post your own questions there. Yeah, come and join us. Okay, before we start, just a couple of words about who is actually talking today. Hi, I'm Maggie from Game City Hamburg. I'm here with my colleagues from Game City, Dennis, Anna, Renee, and Annika, who will also guide you through the event today.
Hi.
Yeah, that's Annika. And of course, the main guests are our speakers today, which I will introduce in a minute. For the timing, we are now in the welcoming part. As you might, I'm sure you have guessed, we'll introduce our guests very soon. And then Annika and I have prepared a lot of questions that we'd like to ask our guests. And as I mentioned, feel free to ask your own questions at any time. And yeah, we're looking to fit everything into 2 hours. So the event will end at about 8 p.m. So the important people tonight are Henning, who is a lead programmer at Hamburg-based indie studio THREAKS. We have Ines here today, who is a junior software developer at InnoGames, and we have Juan, who is senior software engineer at Bigpoint. So that's the very short introduction, but I think the best people to introduce those 3 people are they themselves. So Henning, maybe you want to start. Tell us why and how did you become a game programmer? What made you take this path and go into this industry?
So for me, wanting to I think since I was 10 or something, decided I want to make video games. So that was always kind of something I was interested in. And then I started as a kid playing around with Game Maker, which is a software which you can use to click together games. You can also code in it, but you can also do stuff if you don't know how to code. And then played around with that, and then switched to Unity at some point. And then when I was 17, I applied at THREAKS for like a 2-week school internship. And basically that way got in contact with them. In the end, I didn't like, in the end, I ended up working for them like after school for a bit. And did that internship. And after I was done with school, I started there. And I'm in that studio since 6 years now.
Can you tell us a little bit, for those who don't know THREAKS? I think everybody should know what kind of games you're making and what that company is like.
Right. So THREAKS is an indie game studio which is 10 years old by now, founded by some HAW students, so from the Hamburg from Hamburg University. We made a game some years ago called Beat Buddy, which is this character, which some people might recognize. So yeah, started with that, which was a music game that came out in 2014. And afterwards, we made a bunch of other games. We made a mobile game called Wild City Rush. We made a VR and later also PC and console top-down shooter called Battle Planet. And right now we work on new games. And also we organized the Indie Arena booth, or co-organized the Indie Arena booth, which was organized by THREAKS and some other companies. And now that whole thing turned into Supercrowd, our event team, which is doing event stuff. And right now, and right now the studio is the game studio is 15 people.
Okay, nice. Ines, I think that's quite different with you, right? You're a little bit more than 15 people. Can you tell us about your way into the industry?
Yeah, okay. So for me, it also started pretty early that I knew I was very interested in games. I started playing games very early with like 5 and always loved them. And then so after school, I was like, okay, I will try to do something with video games, and did the whole, I just studied computer science with a bit of a focus on game development in the course that I did, and then the bachelor. And so then I got an internship with Good Games, which is also in Hamburg, and spent some years as a QA, as a quality assurance tester person for them, and then switched to another company that was not in the games business, and there I also was QA for a while, and then made the switch to PHP developer. But I just knew I had to get back to games. So now, since a bit over a year, I'm working for InnoGames as a junior PHP developer. And I'm working on the games team that does the game Grappleless. Some might have heard of it. Other games from InnoGame that you might know as Forge of Empires or the good old Die Stämme. That's an oldie. And currently in my team for Grappleless, we are around 10 developers actually. But a bit larger team if you include community management, QA, those people. Yeah, that's been my way so far.
Nice. I also saw in the chat that we do have a Forge of Empires fan among us here. That's great. Juan, you've been working for quite some time in the industry. Would you tell us how you got there and why you chose this path?
Yeah, I can tell you. Well, the thing is, like, I didn't choose this path at all because, like, I just like from forever, I really super like computers and programming computers, fascinating devices. It's like, damn, I want to learn how to do anything, program anything. And then parallel to that, I really love video games. I've played all the PC video games there is. I mean, that's actually what I do, play PC games actually. And what happened is, like, I was just working, and I'm from Spain, right? And like the video game industry in Spain is almost non-existent. There's nothing there, right? So I never thought like that, like I was going to actually find anything there, right? But as it happens, I actually tried like abroad, and they call me from here. So I mean, I say like, all right, I could have actually worked in anything else, right? But of course, I mean, I really love video games. So like, it's like I would rather work doing video games. So that's what I did. So I came here to Bigpoint, and I've been working the last like 8 years in a very awesome and super old like pirate game called Sea Fight as a as a back end developer, right? So it's just like all these like super big piece of code that is controlling everything from the behind, and I've been doing that like ever since. like, yeah, most of the time. Now we are doing a little more of Unity, of C# and stuff. But I mean, yeah, most of the time that's what I like. I mean, like backend development. Yeah, that's how I actually got in the industry, and I've been doing the same thing actually like 7 years. I still love it, so very neat.
Nice. And we also got someone from Spain here, so
All right.
maybe something to talk about later.
Yeah, so
all right, there you go.
One first thing, I will just start a questionnaire here, so it will plop up on your screen in a second, because we also want to know about our audience, about what your profession inside the game industry is. So there it comes. And yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, let's talk about your jobs a bit more. One first thing is about engines, because like everybody talks about engines when talking about programming. So what kind of engine do you use, or do you even use an engine?
Who starts?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, well, I start. All right, so yeah, well, what engine you mean, right? Like Unity, like Lumberjack, stuff like that. Unity is the thing that we are actually using now in our company, like big time, because our company was actually traditionally made of web browser, like Flash games, right? And like, as everybody knows, Flash is super dying, like in a couple of days. So because we don't want to actually leave people in the dry, not being able to play our awesome games. Well, actually, we are developing like solutions like based in Unity, which is pretty neat. And like ergo, we are actually all of us learning a lot about it, and it's pretty neat. Like, and that's actually the one I personally have like experience with. I mean, other engines I just heard talking about it, and I also have played a bunch of games made in other engines. But more than that, I don't have any like professional experience more than Unity.
Yeah, for us, it's also Unity. So the studio, yeah, THREAKS has worked with Unity for 10 years now. I think the guy started back then with Unity 2.6 or something. So yeah, we have a lot of experience with Unity. And personally, before that, I worked with Game Maker, but that was only in the beginning to get into it. So yeah, it's also all Unity for us.
For us, so personally, as I work right now, we're not really using any engines that you might think of like Unity, because Grapolis is a 2D, kind of pretty old browser game at this point. I do have some personal, I had some personal interest in Unity and have a little bit of experience with it, but we don't use it for this game. But I know that other teams in InnoGames that work on other games also use Unity. So that's definitely a popular one.
Yeah, seems like it. So except for C#, because that's the standard Unity language, which programming languages do you use in your day-to-day work? And yeah, which ones do you use, do you know, except for those you use every day? So do you have like a greater portfolio of languages you know? Programming languages, I mean.
Yeah. So I use PHP right now, mainly because I'm a PHP developer, but I also sometimes do some JavaScript. And I know more languages, although some of it is a bit like I got a pretty good overview during when I was studying over C#, C++, Java, some others probably. And I think I could get back into it if I needed it for a job. I would just have to be updated on all the new stuff. But yeah, right now mainly PHP for me.
Yeah, for me, as you mentioned, it's mostly C#, but I also do a lot of shader programming, which you do these days in HLSL, which is basically a simplified version of C, but like specialized for graphics programming. Yeah, those two pretty much. And I don't know any other programming languages really.
Yeah, well, I mean, my weapon of choice is Java. I've been working in Java like for a bunch of years already. So basically, that's working in backends that are made in Java. Basically, that's what you do, right? But of course, I mean, that's not the only one you use. Now I've been working with Unity, so I now like got a very good grasp in C#, which is pretty neat, by the way, as a language, pretty modern, pretty nice to use. Also, like, well, as Python for scripting, which is pretty neat, pretty elegant as well. And well, yeah, Bash scripting, but well, I mean, if you can call it a language as well, it's still incomplete. And what else? I'm learning Rust now. Rust is a low-level programming language that has memory protection, which is very nice. So I'm doing that right now to kind of get a little more round into like knowing languages on high levels and lower levels and stuff like that. Of course, I know C and C#, but I don't really like them. So so C++, I mean. So I'm just trying to look around for other languages that are low level, but are also more elegant. It allows you to make like kind of more elegant code, I guess.
Okay, so according to our survey, only 24% of all people in this call already work in the industry. So maybe we could also focus a bit on what career starters should know, as in you all work in Unity, or your companies mostly work in Unity, you said, but the other big engine everyone knows, of course, is Unreal. So there's always, as I noticed, the debate in which you should start, Unreal or Unity. So would you say you have some pros or cons for each of those to start?
I got stuff. I got stuff. No, the thing is the following. I mean, like going to I don't really know how like Unreal Engine actually. I know how it works because I've seen it for a minute, but I don't have any professional experience on it, right? But like, it's my sensation, and I guess a general knowledge that is actually pretty complex to use, right? You can get like very good like results. Like bunch of like AAA games are made using like this engine, but like it requires, as far as I think, is like lots of experience, lots of discipline to use properly. And also, if I don't really know if you can actually harness the power of this engine just using a scripting language, right? Like we were talking the other day, and if you can't, then I would say that is actually a pretty complicated like engine to actually learn, because like learning proper C++ is very complicated. It's very difficult, like at the professional level, because there's so many pitfalls that you have to avoid. You will like basically use 50% of your mental capacity just like struggling with the language instead of solving your problem. So the price of like super awesome performance, of course, like if you really make it, then you can have a very performant, a very nicely, well, it works very nice, right? Unity, on the other hand, I would say is kind of easy. I mean, Unity is not easy. I mean, learning like professional level, it takes forever because like it's just like got so many things. It's a very general tool, but I would say that if you are actually learning, it's kind of more pleasant, I guess. My opinion. I may know it because I actually had to learn it, and it was pretty pleasant. So,
yeah, for me, C++, I would definitely say as a point, because C++ is just a bit more, like personally, I don't really like it because it's just so old school compared to C#, but of course it has the performance advantage to some degree. I guess for Unreal, it kind of depends on the kind of project you do. Because if you, for example, would do something like a walking simulator, then you basically or if you do something that isn't super heavy on gameplay, then yeah, a bunch of people without a programmer can just build cutscenes and build like triggers and interactions and so on and make a game without any coding. So the blueprint stuff is cool. But of course, if you like the visual scripting is cool that you don't have to use any actual code, you don't have to code in C++. You can do stuff in a more, in the visual way. But then of course, if you do something complex, then that can also get really hard. And then at some point you probably need to do it in C++. And for that, you need to be good in that language. But I would say Unreal definitely has the advantage that it comes with a lot of very nice tools for artists to build stuff that, where in Unity you would need to get third-party assets or code something yourself for, quite a few things that Unreal has out of the box.
Okay, so I can't really compare it from experience because I've never used Unreal, and I've only used Unity for my final project when I was studying and a bit in private context. I find Unity, I found it really easy to get started with, and there's like a bunch of tutorials that you can find for sure. And my impression is, and correct me if I'm wrong, you too, but my impression is that as of now, Unity is definitely the more popular, or like where more open positions can be found for. So I would probably recommend Unity, but I'm not 100% sure.
I would say, I'm not, so just as a guess, but it feels like Unity has more open positions, but there's also way more people. So if you have, it's not that easy to find Unreal developers right now, because there isn't that many, and that might make you, if you learn Unreal, it might make it easier because the competition is just so less. Because most people learn Unity right now. But then of course that's just a feeling. I don't have numbers to back that up.
Yeah, some people in the chat seem to share your position, Unity being easier for career starters. So let's focus again on your day-to-day job a bit more. So within the scope of the job of a game programmer, did you specialize in any way, like UI programming, backend programming, stuff like that? And if yes, when and why did you? And if not, why didn't you?
So I kind of specialized by accident at first. It was just because I got into PHP, which wasn't necessarily a choice. It was just what I could get into at the moment. But with some experience later, I definitely prefer backend programming. So I'm not a huge fan personally of doing the front end stuff, of making things look nice. I like to get into the logic of the programs and like into the data storing parts, or so the more hidden parts maybe, and so I prefer backend programming.
I specialized on graphics programming also in the beginning, kind of by accident, because the first thing I did at THREAKS was porting BeatBuddy to the Wii U, and for that we needed to adjust some shaders, and there was nobody in the company who knew anything about shaders at that point. So I just had to, I basically just tried to figure out enough stuff to get this one game ported, but afterwards I kind of stuck with it, and so graphics programming has been the main thing I focused on for the last few years, which I can recommend. It's super fun once you get figure out the basics. And also a bit of AI programming over the last year, especially. Because the last two games we worked on were super AI heavy, or like super AI heavy, but had like a lot of different enemies with different behaviors. So I also did a lot of AI programming recently.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you can call that specializing, but what I did when I entered, I mean, I always been like a backend programmer, right? So it's just basically the main like the main container of the logic of the game, right? And basically taking care of like all the clients they get like process and stuff like that. So basically my specialization is backend, but inside of backend there's a bunch of things to do. So I've been basically doing all kinds of things like data processing, AI, you name it. I mean, we got like this XML, you have to read out of it, stuff like that. So yeah, in the end, you just basically do what is needed. And that's basically, and if basically you are very enthusiastic about, you just can get like into it and you can specialize. But yeah, basically that was that.
We have a question on that in the Miro board as well. Someone asked there if you would recommend specializing or if it's better to stay a generalist, especially in Hamburg.
I'd say specialize. The thing is the following. I mean, like it's my experience that like if you, it's actually very difficult to specialize in several things like properly, professional level. So I'd say that you pick like this language or this framework or this engine that you really like and just get super good at it. Right. And like the rest, you can get into it and say like, all right, I can do it. I can solve problems and stuff like that. But when you get your weapon of choice, you are like the best samurai there is, right? So that's what I would actually advise, like that, to have like a very one, how you call it, like a very good strength in something in particular. Like, because there's just no time. Like even if you say like, well, you know what, like internet is full of like cool stuff that I can learn. There's just no time, and the willpower is like a finite resource, and it will run out. So you should kind of husband it, this precious resource, and put it like into just one thing. My personal opinion, of course. I maybe don't have that much willpower, but yeah.
I think it's hard though to specialize like before you start working. Like maybe that's just a thing that will happen in your job, in your career, as you see what you like and what you don't like to do so much, and then it will happen a little automatically. Also, I think that you find your thing. At least that's what it was for me.
Yeah, I guess like specializations, at least for most people that I know, kind of come to you at some point by chance, or by like you do a bunch of things and one of them interests you more than others. So I guess you shouldn't, out of university decide I'm going to be specifically a network programmer or something. But just like when you start working, I guess you will figure out what's the most fun for you. But then, of course, if you apply for other jobs, it's like if you say, hey, I'm generally a Unity programmer compared to, hey, I mean, of course, you should be able to do like all the different tasks, especially in smaller studios. But if you say, hey, I'm a network, I'm specialized on online multiplayer, or I'm specialized on shaders, or I'm specialized on gameplay, yeah, I guess it makes it easier also for people to know that they should hire you. And also it feels like for like most things, when you learn more about something, when you get better at something, it becomes more fun. So like in the beginning, you kind of need to figure out a lot of stuff, and then once you're good at it, it becomes so much more fun. So being very good at one thing sounds so much more pleasant than being okay, but still needing to hustle a lot in like 10 different fields. So I guess at some point you will just specialize to have a more relaxed life.
We actually do have kind of a follow-up question in the chat because you mentioned specializing maybe in backend programming. What tasks do actually count as backend in games? Juan, maybe you can go into this a little because you mentioned it before.
I was actually writing something, but I'm just gonna say it.
Ah, all right, yeah.
No, it's cool. Backend, like what? So the question is like, what task would you expect, right? If you are basically doing backend programming? Well, I mean, like most of the time it's actually problem solving, and a lot of the time, if you know what you're doing, you're also thinking about like the architecture, right? And how because you're not working from the void, you have like a code base, right? And you just have to be thinking how you're going to integrate this new thing you want to do into the code base. And if it's necessary to refactor something, refactor meaning changing like the code structure without changing the behavior of the old things that are going over there, but you just do it, and then you slowly improve like what is the structure of the game server basically. And yeah, and basically it's just like that, like architecture and problem solving, and yeah, basically. Of course, you do that, and then when you say like I'm gonna solve that problem, how to do it? You just have to code, and you just code it.
Yeah, but also like at least that's how we do it in our team. We have, I think, 2 or 3 people who are like the front end developers and 2 or 3 for backend. And for example, if we implement a new feature and it needs like a new window in the game, that would be something the front end people do because it's visible to the player, and it's like a mostly graphical thing. And then the backend people would take care of saving whatever you did in that window to the database, for example. It's like roughly.
So maybe also a bit more generalized, or like just to point it out. So the front and back end separation you normally have in online games, where you have a client on the running where a player is where the player is seeing the game, and then the back end on the server is where the game is simulated. So that's like a thing for online games. For like games you play locally or like games you play on a console, you normally don't have that if it's single player stuff.
Yeah, basically architecture is basically you have like a big game server, and then you have clients that connect to the game server, and game server is running always, right? And then clients go and connect there, play, and then go out, but the game server needs to be able to basically deal with all the states of the players when they are playing the game and stuff like that. Standard like layer architecture for that. Yeah, that's basically how it's done.
I think it's the same person who also asked to specify, so gameplay is front end and the other stuff is back end.
No, it doesn't work like that. No, the gameplay is actually, I mean, it just depends how you do it, right? But the client is the front end, the UI. So that's the buttons, and that's the laser that's just basically making explode the other ship and stuff like that. So what you see is the client, and like the actions that you make on the client are basically one dependent on architecture, but normally what you do is you send a message to the server, you know what, I want to kill that guy, right? And the server says like, well, can you kill that guy? Are you close enough? Do you have weapons and stuff like that? If it decides that you can, it sends a message back saying like, okay, do it, go for it. And then like the client will actually render the result of that. Like that, but like, you can do it like several times, but that would actually be the the most basic thing how to do it, right? But that's when you're talking about thin clients where they have any logic. That's not true, of course. The clients also calculate stuff, and sometimes they don't need to actually call the server for help. I say like, we'll do it ourselves, no problem. But yeah, but the gameplay is actually like it's not like in the server or in the client. They both actually act to make the gameplay happen from the point of view of the user. No, correct me if I'm wrong, guys.
Oh, that's true.
So on the topic of specialization still, what would you say, what specializations are employers looking for right now? Did you notice some kind of trend there?
You first.
I guess graphics programming. Of course, it's like the thing I do and want to promote, but I feel like people are looking for graphics programmers a lot, and there's like people, there's always open positions for graphics programming. So once you get good at that, it might make it easier to find jobs, or it probably does.
From my side, I haven't been looking at like the job position super closely, and I'm always a bit in my area of like online browser games usually. but I think mobile development is generally, needed, not just for games. But I know that a few years ago, basically a lot of browser games started like developing their own apps, and I think there's probably still a lot of mobile developers always needed. And otherwise, I can just say that I've seen a lot of positions that need Unity experience. That's what I can say.
Yeah, Unity is the thing, because like Unity is pretty neat in the sense that you can basically build a game and then you can just set the target platform whatever you want. So, and you just can say like, oh, you know what, I'm just gonna do like a game for iOS, or gonna do a game for Android and stuff like that. You code your game in the engine and say like, here we go, and then you just tell them like, yeah, compile this for, I don't know, for Linux, compile this for whatever you want. So basically, if you basically know good Unity, right? You can actually be a mobile like developer, right? Like in that sense. Of course, there are other platforms, there are other frameworks, but like what I'm saying is like there is like a lot of Unity like demand, right? And from a personal point of view, like because I'm actually just a Java nut, right? And what happens is like I got personally like a bunch of like job offers because I know Java. Because Java is a language that is like, I don't know, like just name it, any backend server of anything you want that needs like a super scalable architecture and all that stuff. And yeah, there is like a very high demand of like Java developers. But this is not only for the game industry; it's for anything you want. If you want to go work a bank, they probably have like a super Java application running right over there, right? So yeah, it works for more stuff, right? But yeah, that's my personal take on it.
Especially for Henning, we also had a question a bit earlier on, basically how to get into the field of shader and graphics programming.
Like tutorial resources, or?
I think the person didn't specialize, but maybe, yeah.
Okay, so.
The person said they feel like shader programming is not a topic to get into very easily. So any recommendations?
So something I stumbled over a few weeks ago was, wait, I can see if I can find it. Like live stream recording from Freya Holmer, who did a like 5-hour live stream where she goes over basically like all the basics of shader programming. So nice. That one might be a good starting point. It's wait, here we go.
All right.
Also her Twitter is a good source for her Twitter is a good source for like interesting shader information, and the only place where I get graphics programming memes specifically, which is a rare thing. So yeah, that one might be a good thing to check out.
Awesome.
Okay. So again, on your day-to-day job, how much of your average workday would you say is actual programming, and how much is other stuff like project and team stuff, not programming?
I would say for me personally, at the moment, it's like 30 to 40% goes to planning. Yeah, I mean, it fluctuates a bit. When like big features are planned, we have a few more meetings maybe. Okay, let's say 30%. And the rest would go to programming, but into programming, I would also count like checking the pull requests of other developers, for example, or like taking care of live updates. So not just writing code. So I would say it's like 30, 70, roughly, for me.
Yeah, sounds about right. I think it's the same for me, more or less. But of course, yeah, as you said, like a lot of what you would call coding is looking at code. Like the actual writing is probably like 30 minutes per day if you and the rest is thinking about stuff, looking at code reviews, asking other people, all of that.
Googling.
And then 30% meetings.
Yeah. That sounds about right. I mean, like, yeah, for me, just depends, right? It could be like 30, 70. And then when you have like you have to basically do all these print reviews, stuff like that, it just takes forever. And you are like, oh, damn it, leave me alone. But yeah, like for me that fluctuates because when I'm actually writing new features, which when I most fun have, I write like a lot of code, and then of course I throw away a lot of code. But like the point is I write it, and I kind of spend like a lot of time doing that, right? Like meetings notwithstanding. But like of course when where you're maintaining it, when you're solving bugs and stuff like that, but then you just have to basically solve the mystery. It's like a Sherlock Holmes story. It's like, what happened with that bug? And you have to basically look at a lot of code and say like, why is this happening? So yeah, but yeah, really, the thing is like writing code is super awesome, but like it's not the only thing that you are gonna do at your job because you are part of a team. Sometimes you basically you're doing your stuff, having fun, whatever, and then you have your buddy right there has a problem stuck. You have to basically, if you're a good teammate, you say like, oh, of course, I got your back, man. And then you go and help him. And yeah, also like you have to be shy of asking for help as well. I mean, you are basically stuck 25 minutes, something like that. It's like, what the heck? So you can ask another couple of eyes to come around, right? So yeah, it's way more than coding.
Yeah, I actually think teamwork is a very good topic as well, because we talked a lot about purely technical skills, what engines you should know your way around in and what programming languages. But I think for career starters, it's probably very good to know what awaits them in terms of teamwork, like with other programmers and also with other parts of the developer team, with non-programmers. Maybe you can share some insights in how it is to work with different people in a team.
I start. Can I start? Thank you.
Yes, please.
No, the thing is the following. I mean, like the first and foremost, you have to be super polite. All right. Everything has to be followed by a thank you. Everything has to start with a please. Like always, you have to be super polite. You have to be nice. Like this actually doesn't only work for like game development. This works for any job, right? That you have to actually interact with that team. You just have to be nice, right? You have to be able to help. You have to be willing to help people. You have to be willing to be helped by people. And you have to basically kind of be able to listen to people, right? And try to basically decipher what the heck are they talking about the best way possible, and kind of trying to integrate that into your idea of what should be doing with this stupid like feature, like and along that you should be able to also defend your own ideas and say like, well, I think this is actually better, and but like always with a smile, like polite, super polite. According to my experience, we have like a very cool like thing going on in our team, but I don't know.
Yeah, so for me, I always thought back in the days when I just thought, hey, I want to work on a game someday, I thought always like, oh, programming, that's one of these jobs where you don't need to talk to other people, basically, but that's very not true at all. So I found it involves a lot of talking, actually, like talking to game designer says, hey, I want this feature. Then we have to talk about how are we going to do that technically, or the community manager asks like, hey, players are saying this is broken in the game, can you check? And of course, there's a lot of talking between the programmers, talking about how can we do this? Do you know how this works? Can you look at my code? Yeah, quite. So you should definitely be able to talk, communicate well, and be honest always. Like if you make a mistake, just say, oh, wait, I broke something. Can you help me fix it? Yeah.
I guess what's also important to mention about the game industry is that, of course, like the things like, of course, like software is always a collaborative effort if you don't work alone. But especially in games, the thing is that you have to cooperate a lot with people who might not be programmers. So you work a lot with artists and a lot with game designers. And there you kind of have to figure out, a way to kind of understand their language or like be considerate, and things that are super obvious to you might not be obvious at all to a concept artist. So I guess a lot about game development is also to figure out how to communicate effectively with artists and game designers, because a game designer might have an idea that this dragon, runs down the hill towards the player and so on. But what that means in detail is something you need to figure out together with the game designer, because if you just say enemy runs down the hill, there will be like a million questions the programmer is asking, and maybe some that the game designer didn't even think about yet. So it's kind of like a back and forth between them. And the same goes for art, where there might be like a piece of concept art. This is what we expect, like what the artist thinks the game is supposed to look like. But what does that actually mean? Like what features does that require is then something you have to kind of figure out in a back and forward. So yeah, be prepared to talk to people who don't code and don't consider that side of the whole production.
And also it's important to know that like whenever you're talking with someone that doesn't have the first idea how to code, because they don't need to, because they have you, you should actually try to understand that they are not interested in that array that starts in zeros. No, you should actually stay always high level. It's very difficult for programmers to do that. But you should probably give it a try. Say like, no, let's just like abstract the detail and say like, this is what we're gonna do in general, and things like that, because they are not interested in that. I mean, you go to your project manager and tell them like, I could not do it because an array was in my way, and they don't care. so yeah.
So soft skills that a game programmer should bring with him into the job, I hear from you, are definitely communication skills with other team members. Anything else you think should be super important, or maybe is also something that that is looked for in interviews, because interviews are not just about the technical skills?
They look for a good fit, basically, so you and also what they're not looking for, if they are actually not doing their job like correctly, they're not looking for heroes and loners don't are super good technically, but they cannot just work in a team, right? And they're like super protective of their code. Like no, like it's a team effort, like he said. So basically, like the code is like from the team, right? So I'd say that that's actually pretty important if you can actually bring that to the table. Like you're a good teammate, right? Like with all the soft skills that in place, right? You are polite and you can listen to people, and you never start like screaming to people and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we already mentioned it, but like being communicative, being a team player, and also I think they are looking for someone who can also not just code things, but also explain them well, if possible. And one thing that may be specific for games companies, but in all the interviews I've had in game companies so far, I was definitely asked like, hey, why do you like games? What's your favorite game? Why is it your favorite game? And they try to find out like, why do you want to work like in the games industry specifically, and maybe try to find out if you have like a creative idea, or so you should be prepared for that, I guess. And also being honest about like what you can do and what you can't do yet, and being willing to learn. That's also so like if they ask you a technical question in the interview and you have no idea, then you can say like, oh, I don't know, but I could look it up, or
No, it's actually even better to say like, I just didn't have to confront that yet, right? But of course, if I had to actually use that tool and stuff, well, then I'll learn in a minute. Doesn't matter. But you just have to. You have to bring your will to learn into the interview.
Yeah, I guess we moved away in programming, or I hope no company is doing it anymore, to ask somebody how to write a shuffle sort from like memory. It's all about knowing how to Google stuff, how to figure stuff out. It's not about like knowing this specific algorithm. New question.
Yeah, it's interactive here.
Oh.
I say YouTube.
Where's the Google option?
Yeah. No, the thing is, like, I cannot click several. It's just I can get it from all of them actually. So I thought, do I personally acquire like working? It's not there. I do a working.
Somebody in the comments points out where's the Stack Overflow option. That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a good point actually.
You might notice non-coders wrote the answers.
Yeah, all right. No, I'd say like the best. I mean, talking about like that little thing that's appeared right there, is like my own personal experience tells me that if you want to actually learn something, anything, get a job into it or get an internship into it, because the moment you have the responsibility to actually being able to solve a problem using like that technology, then it's going to be way easier for you not to spend all your willpower doing it, because it's your job, right? And if you're like a responsible person, you just have to do it because you're hard to do that. So yeah, of course, books, like internet, whatever, like you just use everything, right? But yeah.
So to get into the industry, the question is, what formal education would you say does a game programmer need to get into the industry, or does one actually need one? I guess you have very differing opinions based on your own life stories.
Oh yes, but I won't start.
So I guess you don't like. I guess you don't really need it. Like in the hiring process, I think for like especially game companies don't really look at like formal education, or like I don't know. Maybe it's different from company to company, but I think like most of the time.
It's different.
But I think I think people look more at the skills and the example code. I would argue people look more at than like people will look at your GitHub profile or something like that more than at your grades from university in general. So you can definitely go into the industry without having any kind of higher education. But of course, yeah, I think it depends from company to company. How do the guys do it at Inno and Bigpoint regarding that?
No, well, I mean, I was actually asked my degree to be able to actually get my job, but like you are completely right. I mean, like you don't really need any formal studies to actually get into the industry, but you may want to actually have them at some point, right? Because if you want to get into like a high position, you want to earn more money, you want to take more responsibility or do more interesting things, then maybe you actually have to have like a degree, right? But you don't really need it per se, like to get into the industry. That said, I find that like having had like superior studies in computer science has helped me a lot to confront like seemingly like no solution problems, and basically being able to solve really, really high things without like running away in the other direction. It's like, right? So yeah, I really find it really useful, but that's actually very personal. If you ask me if I actually recommend to make a career before doing anything, I'd say, yeah, of course, do it. That's what I did. But no, that's just my own personal experience, my own situation, right? So yeah.
Yeah,
sorry.
So I'm definitely glad that I studied computer science because it gave me like a broad overview into many things. But I also agree that you don't need a degree necessarily. I would just say that you probably need experience, and ideally experience working in some sort of team. So I think if you set off on your own to like learn C# on the internet or something, even if you like really good technical knowledge, I think the team working aspect and the whole like going about development in a structured way, whatever structure you use, if it's Scrum or whatever, but you should have some experience with that probably. Otherwise, I can imagine it would be kind of difficult if you only developed things on your own. But yeah, I can definitely say that I've never been asked in any interview about anything that had to do with my degrees or my education. So experience is definitely a bigger point.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of things that you won't learn like in YouTube or in the university that you just learn at the job, right? And if you are lucky and then you got like good mentors, right, which was my case, then you can really get into things, like really have like a very good knowledge on like specific things, right, that you won't get anywhere else, because like this is basically knowledge like distillated from a like work experience, right? So that's what I know. I don't know if I didn't say it before, but if you want to really learn anything, get a job on it. Even if you are not getting paid, maybe it's just an internship, but that's just the best way to actually acquire knowledge, because it like a bunch of things interplay to get you the best like knowledge you can have, like your own personal like willpower and other people that have work in it. So yeah, commented with books and internet and YouTube, whatever you want, right? But
I guess one thing to point out is also just if you study computer science, the programming is like something that you will mostly have to teach yourself or like gather from tutorials and stuff on the side. Like, yeah, you like if you study, then you will also do like hobby projects and game jams and so on. And a lot of the stuff you will learn will go over those like indirect things.
yeah, definitely.
So I think Henning already posted some type of resources in the chat, but do you have some kind of tutorial course or book recommendations for those who want to acquire new skills?
If people are completely new to C#, there's a super nice overview course, like a video that I used, like, God, it's 10 years old, I think. which I found really good. I can post that for sure.
Sorry. Yeah. Ah, there you go.
Yeah, so I don't have any like tutorial links on hand, maybe because I learned it all when I was studying, but well, the basics. I can just point you towards, if you're interested, the fact that InnoGames also offers, I don't know what the English term is, but basically the thing where you study and work at the same time. And
like a dual.
Yeah, dual. Yeah.
Duales Studium.
Exactly.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we offer that for the first degree and also later for the master. We have a few open positions there, if you want to check that out. I don't know if I should post the links in the chat or if I think it will be in the Discord later. I was told.
You can post them into the chat and also in Discord if you like. We can also post the link to our Discord for those who are not there yet.
Okay, I'll just...
But feel free to post them into the chat.
And personally, I've never read a single book on programming, I have to admit.
Oh, read a clean color then.
There's probably a few that would be helpful, but I never have, but yeah, so I can't help you there.
I must admit it's the same for me, but you also told me last time the clean code sounds pretty interesting. Maybe I'll get that one.
It is amazing. It changed my life. Like I thought I was a professional, but no, I wasn't.
Maybe that's something over winter break to get into.
Yeah. It's very good. It's very good.
There's a book series called GPU Gems, which exists, but it's all it's by NVIDIA, where they do like a bunch of interesting shader things. But there's only like a limited, there's not that many of those books, and they are like €100 on eBay. But it's also a website. So I guess that if that counts as a book, then I read GPU Gems was the name of the book. I can also post that one. It's pretty cool.
I seem to remember there are like a bunch of those gems. There's the Java gems and C++ gems, and there's a bunch of books with a bunch of gems. I read the Java gems. Yeah, it's pretty neat. Yeah. Yeah.
We also have one
here
more
we go.
question from the Miro board that might fit into the field of also which education or which studies might fit. So the person asks, I made some games as a hobbyist, but I'm unsure about the skills I already developed. How do I start to find out what education studies are the best for me? Can you give any hints on that?
Well, I mean, like it probably have said it like a bunch of times, but like if you want to learn something, it just cannot be like learned in the vacuum, right? You just can learn. I love it. I'm gonna learn it, and then you don't do anything about it with it. Like these are actually so complex things to be learning, like computer languages, like human languages. Like all this stuff is so complex that your brain is trained to forget it at the 3 days later if you don't use it. So my recommendation is like before you actually think about what you want to study or what education you want to have or whatever, it's like, which problem do you want to resolve? Do you want to work in the industry, or do you want to create your own game, or what do you want to do, right? And then when you have an idea what you want to do, then basically make a plan, right, and achieve your goal. And that plan may even be like, I'm going to study computer science, and I'm going to basically get an internship over here. I'm just going to start working here to brush my Python skills or whatever, right? But like it never worked for me. I'm always trying to learn new stuff, but I have found that if I don't use it, it's just like time wasted, because I will forget it. I'll completely forget it. I don't know, maybe just me, but like, yeah, it's happened a lot.
Yeah, I think it's hard to say like this is the best course for you, or this is what you should study, because we don't know what specifically interests you or where you want to end up in the industry. And I think it's very common for people in the games industry, also probably somewhere else, but especially in games industry, to start with one like entry thing, maybe as QA, maybe as I don't know, junior developer in one language, and then you find out I want to do something else, and just work your way through somehow. So yeah.
And once you are actually inside the company, it's actually easier to actually change your specialization, and you can get courses for it, right? For instance, you like happened to you, you were like a QA, right? And say like, well, you know what, I want to do something else. And then you can just say like, how about if I get with this guy and tell him to teach me something, or I asked my company to like give me some courses. And that things happen. I mean, like having people that are capable of doing several things is actually a big selling point for one professional.
Another thing about career starters specifically, would you say a career starter what should a career starter already know? Like, for example, multiple languages or just one? If that's the one the company uses, of course.
I think one language is definitely enough. Like, it can be cool, of course. Like, you should, especially in the beginning, just check out a bunch of things, and knowing a bit of Python or something can help. But like, if you are good in one language, that's all I guess people can ask for of an entry position.
Yeah, if you have like a position that says like, we want like a Python programmer with a year of experience or whatever, right? And you touch yourself like real good like Python, you maybe actually can cut it, and then you get inside and then you start learning properly Python, right? So that would actually be a very nice way to actually put a feet in the door, right?
And so I got this overview of different languages when I was studying, which I found really useful. But of course, it was only like a basic knowledge in a bunch of different languages. And then, yeah, really the real knowledge comes in your job anyway. And if you're already pretty good in one language, you can always learn another language, because, then the basics are kind of similar across languages in some ways. So you can always get into something new. Basically, when I started PHP development as a job, my study times were already some years past, and I had forgotten most PHP anyway, and then I got back into it with experience. So yeah, I don't think you need to do at least like, oh, you need to know 3 languages really well or anything like that. That's not necessary.
I'd say that like it's actually kind of course, like knowing the language for the job that you are going to, of course. I mean, unless you are getting like very low position, you're getting like an internship, stuff like that where you don't know anything and they're gonna teach you, well then it's okay, right? But I think that would actually be interesting to know how to program, which means like how she said, all the common things like a computer language has, right? You got like, well, I mean, there are like a basic commonalities, right? That you can, there's tools common to all languages that you use to express an algorithm, right? So if you know how to do that, you know your variables, you know your like loops, you know your like basic programming constructs and stuff like that, and then you learn how to use that with your language of choice, and well then that should be enough actually. I mean, like in the end, you don't want to actually, if you don't know how to basically program, you can expect to be hired as a senior programmer, right? You're gonna like start from the bottom, right? But you're going to learn at some point you'll become a senior programmer if you're still interested in that, right? But yeah, it's all about learning. I mean, you have to be, you don't have to actually be afraid to say like, yeah, I don't have any clue of what's going on here, but I can learn, right? Given time and interest, yeah, you make it, man. We all did. So
on what you basically already have to learn, programming, math. How about math?
oh,
how
yes.
important is it to become a programmer?
Again?
I feel I have this theory that the people who get into programming normally are the ones who also at least showed reasonable interest in at math in school. It feels like
not my case.
No? Okay.
Yeah, same. I hated math.
Maybe an exception. Right?
Okay.
But yeah.
Never mind then.
No, go.
So I think it depends a bit on what you do. Like if you would become, like if you are mainly like, I guess depending on what kind of programming you do, you need kind of different kinds of math. So I guess a solid understanding of the basics is important. Then if you want to do either gameplay or shader stuff, it's very important that you are good with geometry. So you are like cross products and dot products and all of that stuff. And everything that goes with that, and also the kind of thinking, because in the end, yeah, all of graphics and most of gameplay is just a lot of that. So it's definitely good. It's definitely good to know to have an overview over math.
Yeah, so it really heavily depends on what you program. In my day-to-day business, I need pretty much no math at all, which I'm very happy about because I don't like it and I've never been really very good at it. So I personally would probably, I mean, I work in a 2D game. That already kind of means I don't need that much. I'm sure with 3D graphics engine stuff, you need more. But what I just want to say is you don't necessarily need to be like a super math person to have any sort of success. It really depends on what you end up doing.
That said, like math is actually very important when you are actually programming. Like for instance, for starters, you need to be conversant with logic, right? Like predicate logic, like and or not, all that stuff. Because if you don't, you won't be able to get out of your loop, right? So that you need to know how that works. It's not that difficult actually, right? But you need to know how that works. Also, like when you need to actually solve problems that involve like, I don't know, like geometric processing or some more esoteric stuff for which you actually need to know about functions and stuff like that. Like sets are basically like theory of math sets. I find it actually very helpful to know things about sets and stuff like that. to manipulate collections, stuff like that. So it's not that you need to know calculus, right, or anything like that. But like basic math, like basic logic is something that you will need. I mean, it doesn't really matter. You will learn anything you need to learn, because you will, in the end, you need to solve that problem, right? So in the end you will, but it's actually better if you know that already. You make yourself like aware that you will actually need to know math. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess it depends a bit on what you can think of when you think math. Like when I think math, I think like, oh, making calculations on my own. But yeah, you're right. These kind of more logical things you do need on some level, yeah.
So in the end, like everything you are actually doing in the computer is actually a function. It's a bunch of functions like using each other, right? And even if you have like a very nice, like very comfy, beautiful and sweet, like almost natural programming language, that's actually what is going on in the end. You are basically using a bunch of functions to move data between registers and stuff like that, right? So like you, of course, like if you can get around without like knowing all this stuff, but at some point you will need it, like, or not, maybe, it depends what you're doing, right? But like I find it actually, because I'm actually very bad at this, right? So if I don't really understand what I'm doing, I don't have like the spark of inspiration, say like, take a look at that, it should probably, no, I have to understand everything, because if not, I won't be able to actually solve the problem, right? So I don't know, that's me, because I'm very bad at math. So I actually have to basically look into it, into the eye of it, to be able to solve problems, right? It may be different from some other people. Also, there's a bunch of people that really like math. So, I mean, why not? that want to learn how to program too. So, yeah, why not?
On the topic of learning, I'd like to share with you the results from the question we asked. As you already mentioned in the chat and also here on our panel, of course, those answers did not at all cover all of the ways you can acquire new skills. So thanks a lot for sharing more tips and interchanging about that.
This is actually very interesting, the results of the poll, right? Because I'm actually 42 years old. So when I started, YouTube did not exist, right? So now it's actually super cool that like people actually is able to take all the knowledge in the internet, and you say like, you know what, there's like super cool videos, free videos, god damn it. And you can just learn a bunch of stuff, right? But when I was studying, this actually just didn't exist, right? So basically the situation actually has changed a lot. So that's super cool.
And I think it's also super interesting that a lot of people mentioned game jams and smaller game projects, like just learning on the job, basically, which all of you, I think, mentioned earlier, that's super important to just gain some experience. I think all of you three on the panel did that too, you mentioned, right, before you started your career?
So I didn't really partake in like game jams or that kind of stuff. In the course of studying, we did like several projects in teams or with the whole course with like 20 people at some point. So I got a lot of like team developing experience from that one, I guess.
Yeah, I did a lot of had a lot of hobby projects, but I also only found out about game jams after joining the game industry. But a lot of students these days and also hobbyists use it to kind of, I mean, first of all, game jams are super fun. Just, you spend the weekend hacking stuff together, and in the end, you eat a lot of pizza and drink a lot of coffee, and in the end, you have like a small, cool project. But a lot of students also use it. Like, it's also a very effective thing because you like build a network of, people in the industry, and of course, in the end, you also have something to show. Like if somebody shows, oh, look, I was at these 10 game jams with, like, here's like the source code for some of the stuff I did, that is definitely something cool to like, you get really good at prototyping. And that's something I think studios also look for to, if there's 2 days to try out an idea, to know the person will actually be able to get that done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, actually, the game jam is something really recent. I mean, so basically, when I was actually really like studying survey, that didn't exist, and it didn't exist in my country at all. I was like, what the heck, right? But I have done a bunch of LAN parties, but that's not the same. But but yeah, like I really think that it's actually a super cool way to actually like, because it has a pressure thing, right? It's what I said before of the responsibility. You have to actually have something working, right? And then you just basically look the way to solve the problem the best of your ability, and you're like you are on your toes, right? It's just super cool. You learn a bunch of stuff, and as you say, you actually know a bunch of people. That is basically networking right there at its best, right? So I never have done it. I want to do it at some point, but yeah.
Actually, in terms of pressure, I think we have a very important question on the Miro board that I would like to bring in here. The question is, oftentimes you hear negative stories about the games industry in terms of stress, burnout, crunch. Do you think this is common in the industry, and have you experienced these things? And if so, how did you deal with them? Important but difficult question, I guess.
No, I just don't want
to.
I just don't want to go first, because I start like rambling and what's going on. But I'll do it. Okay, I'll go first. Yeah, actually, I don't not have that kind of experience in my company. Apparently, like we are like lucky, and these things don't happen like a lot. Like if I have ever like put more hours, it's because I actually make a very big mistake, and I wanted to solve it, so people would actually be like bothered by my problems, right, that I introduced in the code base. But like I don't really have that experience personally, but I know perfectly that like this is actually something that is completely normal in the industry, and it's actually pretty terrible, because like they use like the illusion of people, not illusion, they use like the what's it called, emotion, like the dreams of the people, saying, I'm working in my dream job and stuff like that, and they exploit the heck out of them, and that's not nice, right? And in the end, like when you have to put like extra hours, it's because like someone basically did a number with the planning, and now like for some reason we have to do more things that we have time of, right? And in the end, it's all like that. Like we have to basically we have to put like Cyberpunk 2077 like immediately, so let's just work forever, right? And this is actually rampant in the industry, right? It's actually here, I don't think it happens that much because we have like employment laws, but if you go to the US, it just happens all the time, and it's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I have also not really personally experienced it, but I think it really depends on the company. I think it probably happens more in the like really big studios, like I don't know, Rockstar, Ubisoft, whatever. I've heard of it happening a bit with other developers I know in other places, but personally, the most I've had is like that it gets a bit stressful sometimes when you get close to a deadline, or I don't know, you broke something really important on the live service and you're about to leave in 5 minutes, but now you can't because you have to fix it. But that doesn't really happen a lot in my personal experience.
Yeah, I guess I mean, of course, like crunch, as in like doing a lot of over hours over a longer period, or like coming in the weekends. And most of the time when people crunch, it's a lot of the times it's also unpaid over hours. Is of course is something that's way too common in this industry, and definitely I feel like there's now more awareness about it, and people talk about it, and people start to realize, hey, this is something that shouldn't happen. And of course, it's also something like in the long run, tired programmers and tired artists don't exactly work that well. Also, if you can work through a weekend, but then you're gonna like the next week you're gonna be completely tired and not get new ideas, not find new problems. So it's something we also at the place where I work avoid over hours. Or as much as possible. Of course, like sometimes, sometimes like I guess in the game industry, like always avoiding it, like, there's the patch that you wanted to do today and then now it takes longer than expected, and then you stay like for an evening a bit later, can of course be a thing, but then you can also, come in later another morning to kind of
or even get paid.
Or that. So yeah, I guess it is, but it is way too common in the game industry, and I guess everybody knows a lot of stories about it. Like, or you hear all the stories from all the different places. Let's put it like that.
My advice, my personal professional advice is the following. I mean, of course, if you don't have any, if you have any like work experience, you just have to deal with it, right? But like if you detect, if you're working, right, you detect like you're in a toxic environment where you are basically expected to work for free, don't do it. Don't do it. Just go away. I mean, go away. Like work something else. Work like out in the industry. You'll come back, no problem. But don't do it. Don't do it because it's just not worth it. I mean, you're gonna get burned, and you won't be able to get. You won't want to come back to the industry. Because there's a bunch of people that just like went out of the industry like super burned, say like, I just don't want to hear anything about video games anymore. And this is actually when you're a programmer, this is actually the most beautiful and awesome way to practice your craft. Because when you're a game programmer, you have to do everything. You have to do AI, and you have to do like proper architecture, and you have to do a client, and you have to do a bunch of stuff. So there's actually like endless, like super interesting problems to solve. But this is actually very important that people say no. Say sorry, but I just can't. And like companies play with that. Company plays with the loyalty to the company. It's like, oh, they hire me, so I have to be. No. It should be like equal to equal. They hire you because you can't offer code, right? So they pay you, but you pay them with your code, right? So it should be equal to equal. I mean, like even if you are starting, like you should say like, I'm just not gonna do it, right? And this work everywhere. So in the end, like it's not something that you say like, oh no, I cannot just like go away and then now have a work anymore, right? I mean, or maybe there's no work anymore. You have to take you can take it, but still you should have a plan to get away.
Apart from crunch, is there anything else you personally wished you had known before you entered the industry or when your career started? Some surprises that came only up when you were actually working on the job and that you would like to warn or people about, or maybe it's something positive, a positive surprise, something you didn't anticipate before working in the industry?
Something I feel like everybody should be aware of is that game industry. I mean, it's not something about like any specific workplace, but game industry in general pays not as much as other industries. Like yeah, I guess you guys agree with that.
Yeah, no, they don't. They don't. I mean,
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, mainly because it's entertainment. It's like I guess that's a general thing about the entertainment industry. The salaries are just not as high as they would be if you work enterprise software or something.
They pay you with your dream, right? They have money, have your dream, right? Which it's something that is not that bad, right? Because you're doing something that you really like, but like you personally have to basically like gauge if this is actually something that is, because maybe you actually want to earn a bunch of money, right? I don't know. It's just like something super personal, right? But this is actually a fact. They're gonna pay you way less than if you were working to a bank, but then it's way more interesting. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Also, maybe I mean it's something that I didn't know much about before, but the game industry and especially indie games and so on, there's a lot more. There's like the community is super nice. That's definitely like a big reason why I work in the game industry and like continue working in the game industry. Like if you go to different events like Gamescom or Ines Festival in Berlin and so on, there's always like a very good, very positive mood in the game industry, and it's like you start to have your game dev friends on other continents and other countries and all meet them again at conferences and so on. It feels like a very nice, very global industry to be a part of, which is super nice. I guess that's definitely a positive thing for me.
Yeah, for me, the only thing maybe that I wouldn't have expected because I didn't think about it also, but like that it's not that easy to get into the games industry compared to just like any other programmer job. Is super easy. But to specifically get into games is not that easy because there's just not as many positions, at least in Germany. We just don't have that many game companies. And then if you get outside of the game industry for some reason, like I did, to get back into it is again not super easy. And yeah, if you really want to stay making games, you might have to be willing to move around or maybe even move to another country. Many people I know have done that. Yeah, a lot of people have moved from Germany to England to somewhere else, back to Germany or whatever, just like following the game companies around basically. So that might be a thing that maybe not everyone is prepared for. But otherwise, I can say that actually most of what I expected from the games company has really been exactly like that. I personally, I always thought that they must have a much nicer like climate or atmosphere or whatever than normal like companies, and I can only say that it really is like that. So yeah, otherwise nothing negative.
I guess you could say there's a lot of excitement about video games in the game industry, which kind of
makes sense.
True.
Yeah.
I got something like when you actually get like a work in the games industry. I mean, it's actually good to know that it's a job. It's a job. It's like any other job. So you have to. Sometimes you may actually have to do stuff that is not fun, right? But it's your job, and you just do it.
UI programming, for example.
What?
UI programming.
Well, I mean, I'm doing Unity on it, and it's actually very interesting. But like maybe not, right? So it's a job, right? So if you have a boss and the boss tells you have to do this, and this is not fun, you just have to do it because like any other job, you're being hired by the company, you pay for it, and you are a responsible person, and you do your job because it's what is expected of you, right? Like hopefully. So that's something that. Of course, I intellectually knew that's going to be like that, but it's not how it is sold, right? It is sold like you're just going to have fun forever. And it's not. No, it's just a job. And if you're a QA, it's like, oh, look at that. I'm going to play a game forever, the whole day. No. He has to document it, do it 1,000 times, and they have to talk to me, right? Which may not be fun about like, let's see if we fix it, right? So yeah, I mean, that's actually something that really I experimented, and I actually know they say like, wait, I mean, I would actually be in a bank. It's exactly the same thing. Like, yeah, good to know.
We do have another question from the chat. Have you ever been bored or stressed later on in your gaming careers? If you have, what are the reasons? Anybody got some experience there?
I do, actually. Oh, sorry.
No, I mean, sure, you get stressed. Like, I've been stressed like for a short amount of time a lot, because like if you're working on this bug and you can't find the solution, then yeah, you get frustrated sometimes. Or sometimes if things are planned for a too short amount of time and you just can't get it done, yeah, sure, stress sometimes happens, but I don't think that's specific to games. So bored, I don't think I would say I've been bored. Maybe I was a bit bored at the end when I was still QA, because I wanted to like not just find the errors of other people anymore. I wanted to make my own errors, but yeah, but that's it.
Yeah, I guess like especially when you like try to figure out new stuff that you don't know yet, there's always like like I wouldn't say that I ever like hate being in those situations. Like that's a very strong word, but of course, if you spend 8 hours trying to figure something out and then in the end of the day, like it didn't work, of course, like you learned a million things, and there's like always positive things you will get out in the long run. But after 8 hours and the game looks more broken than before you got up in the morning, of course that can be frustrating, and that will definitely happen. I would be impressed if that doesn't happen to anyone.
completely happens to me. It is not pleasant. I mean, like today I was just trying to fix a couple of bugs and they, it just doesn't want to work. And yeah, just get frustrated and get bored, right? I mean, but what I do is I change and I just take like another bug or try to do something else that it needs to be done as well. But this is always going to happen. I mean, as I said, like it's not all fun. I mean, like several things are fun, but other things are not fun. And I guess that you can get frustrated, you can get bored, you can just like, I don't know, maybe it can happen in any job, right? Maybe you don't have that good communication with this like coworker right here, and you don't really understand what he's saying, and he doesn't understand what you said, and what do you do? Well, just try to solve the problem, right? But it's not going to be pleasant like any other job. I mean, it's got its cool parts and the uncool parts.
I think that also covers the question from Sonia a couple of minutes ago. If you sometimes hate your job, I guess that's answered with that. Some more questions we have in the chat. We actually have a question that's not per se a programming question, which the person also noted. But maybe Henning, since you're working in a very small team, maybe you have some insights. The question is, as a developer, what is the most important skill to have for marketing indie games? Do you have any insight on that?
I feel like a lot of times that can be, it's like of course, even when the team gets a bit bigger, that can be a full-time job. Good question. I think even though it's always kind of hard to measure the impact, like being at conferences and things like that to kind of like promote your game, or like not conference, but more like shows, stuff like Gamescom, like being at events and like, yeah, showing your game to people and showing your game to press and contacting press is important, and also streamers, and especially smaller streamers who don't charge money for showing games. Getting in contact with those is probably an important skill. But there's I mean, I didn't really do much of like promotion marketing stuff ever, so yeah, I'm not super sure, but it feels like there's a million different things you can be good at, I guess I don't really have an answer. Sorry.
I think that was quite good, and I also think it's also a good question for our Discord community chat, because there are some marketing people there that maybe can give some insights. We do have, I think, very interesting question regarding game programming, where I'm interested what your reaction is to that. Is there any benefit in investing in a self-developed engine?
I don't know if it's a benefit, but it sounds super cool to do something super cool to do. I personally would see benefit into the things you are going to learn, right? I actually have tried to do that myself. I mean, it's super cool. I mean, it's like, I get like from the bottom up and stuff like that. That's not something that's actually kind of useful right now, because right now, basically everything is invented, right? So you just can get conversant with a super powerful engine and reach your goal. But if your goal is actually learn having your own engine and start from, why not? It's gonna cost you, but your willpower, it's gonna vanish. But still, why not?
I guess, I mean, there's still indie games out there which do stuff with custom engines. Yeah, like both big companies and also indie games that do custom engine stuff. Like, for example, there was a game a year ago called Noita, and there's another game that came out called Breakdown, I believe it was called. Which had like a super crazy custom, or both of them do like super crazy custom physics and rendering things, which you would have a hard time implementing in your own engine. So that kind of stuff can exist, but I guess for 99% of games, it makes more sense to go with a game engine. That said, if you want to learn, like I tried writing a game engine in C#, like, I don't know, 8-9 years ago, and it definitely, I would say, taught me a lot about just figuring out basics. Like back then, I was super new to programming, and for example, I implemented my vector class, my vector 3 as a class instead of a struct, and then everything broke down, and then I learned the difference between structs and classes, stuff like that. So sometimes, yeah, like if you write your basic rendering engine, you will know more about rendering than most Unity devs, I assume. So I guess it can definitely help. Because maybe there is that one day where you will have to do this super low level. I don't know, maybe you need to do this one custom C++ rendering thing for Unity on like the PlayStation or something, where all of a sudden, like you can only solve this problem because you know like the low level stuff behind the game engine. But of course, like working with Unity or something is just so much more convenient than writing your own engine. That's for sure.
This is just economical, right? I mean, it's like, it depends what you're doing, because if it's a personal project, then it's cool. You just can do whatever you want, right? It's just, but like if you are talking about like the industry, right? Like, oh, there is like specific instances where like development teams want to create their own engine to basically do effects that cannot be done with other engine. Comes to mind like these shipwreckers, like this hard space shipwrecker game, which actually allows you to cut ships in any angle. They had to actually do their own. They use actually Unity, but they actually use their own like stuff to be able to do that, right? So basically, they modified the engine, and that was super cool. Yeah. And yeah, if you need it, you do it, right? I mean, but as a personal play, it's actually super cool.
It's definitely also going to leave an impression in an application to say, hey, look, this is my game engine. It works. Yeah. It works, or it works okay or better than that. That's already like super impressive.
That's actually like super nice like card saying like, hey, check it out.
Also, maybe quite personal question from someone who asked before. I just can't evaluate the skills I taught myself over the years in programming, graphics, and sound design. I don't know if I should try to apply for an apprenticeship, dual bachelor, or maybe even master studies. Should I just try to apply?
Definitely. I mean, it's of course always hard when you don't have a reference, but I guess the worst thing is that you don't get in for either apprenticeship or studying. But in general, if you have built projects, then you definitely know like if you've finished projects, even if it's small hobby projects and so on, then that definitely means you know the basics. Maybe game jams can also help there if you just get in a team with a bunch of coders and okay, this is like a student and this one worked in the industry for 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. You kind of know, okay, how much, like how fast, that might help you to, get a perspective, like how much you know relative to others.
Sorry.
I think definitely working together with someone would probably show you like maybe what you're still missing or what you already know. But I also thought like, because most interviews to my knowledge have like some kind of coding test. I think there's a few places where you can find like example coding tests depending on what you'd be applying to, which language or whatever. Maybe check that out and see if you have like a general idea for most questions, or if you find something you don't know at all, or maybe that could help a bit.
Yeah, I've said it several times, maybe like just get a job. I mean, like studying is super cool, but like I find that like like the real skills that you will need to perform your job are learned on the job. Like studying is just to give you like a broad framework where your knowledge is going to be stored and correlated and stuff like that, which I mean, I'd say that is super cool, but as we saw, we discussed before, we don't really need it, right? So I'd say like the most important golden thing that you can have is like work experience. That is basically completely priceless, and it will even help you to get even better jobs, like further along in the future. So I do that.
All right. We do have, I think, 2 more questions in the chat. We also, from our side, have one last one, and then I think it's a wrap. Oh, there comes some. No, that's not new questions. So maybe the 2 last questions from the chat. Do you think that the role of VR and AR games will grow even more as it is already? And do you expect like a growing job offer in the extended reality area, especially in the games industry? Juan is nodding. Henning is mming.
It feels like, I don't know, it feels like it definitely takes way longer than one would have expected. Like, I know that when I started like being on game jams and stuff was in 2015. And there I know, like, I like got for the first time to see the like release version of Oculus Rift. Like before it came out, kind of in the demo of that, and thought, oh, this is going to be amazing. And back then everybody talked about how 2016 is going to be the year of VR. And like it seems like, at least from like a market perspective, 2020 is not yet the year of VR. So right now it just feels like the market is super, super small, and I'm not sure it's going to change quickly. Like, because the technology is there and it has been here for like a few, of course the devices get better, but there's nothing right now in VR that couldn't have been done in 2018. Like, of course, graphics are going to get better and resolutions are going to increase, but yeah, VR, like the situation didn't really change much in the last 2 years, I would say.
Come on, didn't you see Star Wars Squadrons? That's amazing, man. Come on, it's like you're in the
I
cockpit of the
should
X-Wing.
check that one out, yeah.
Oh, it's like you are in the cockpit of the X-Wing, man. Holy cow. No, what I'm saying is like, you are completely right. I mean, like the market expectations were super wild, but you can see like a growing trend, like the machines get better. Like this, if there's more titles, there's a bunch of titles that are coming all the time. Like, okay, you don't have like super high quality stuff, like the AAA, like 2D thing, right? But the things are actually going up, right? It's an uptrend. Doesn't really, like whatever the market tells you doesn't really mean anything, right? Because they just want to sell you stuff, right? But like there is demand. There is demand on it. The people that can actually, it offers like unparalleled, in some cases, unparalleled experiences. Like that, like I know it because I have one, and it's awesome. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but like I've also been in this like since the first Oculus Rift, like the prototype, and we actually saw it in our company. It's like, holy God, this is gonna be awesome, and got super dizzy too. But like I can see there's been like an uptrend right there. Like it's true, it's not like 2020 is not the year of VR or AR or whatever you want, right? But like it's coming, like it's slowly getting to be an household item. Like still it's super expensive, but now you have like these Quest 2 things, which are amazing because they are like super cheap and they are like wireless and then like super light and stuff. So I don't know. I mean, we didn't have that like 4 years ago, right? Like they're wireless now, man. Come on. I mean, this is amazing. So I completely definitely see like an uptrend right there. So like, of course, like jobs are coming. And if you get conversant into like virtual reality, you can do that in Unity right now. You can just plug in a visor and start programming there if you want. But I'd say, I mean, just like maybe I don't have any idea what I'm talking about, but like I'd say that this is something that is going to be more like sought after in the future.
Maybe it's also something where, of course, games like right now, making a game in VR is something that's, yeah, the market is not super big, but of course there's also a lot of VR jobs kind of in, like there's a lot of interactive entertainment, I would say, that's not traditionally games. So there's like a lot of different stuff for like for stuff like visualization or things like that, like in medicine and stuff like that. VR, of course, is something that slowly starts to also establish itself. So VR is definitely going to grow in relevance, not only in games, but also in stuff around it. That's for sure. I just feel right now there's not space for like a lot of VR games to be successful.
Yeah, I would have said it's similar to Henning, but also I'm not up to date at all on the whole VR stuff because I can't do it because I get really dizzy. So, but my impression was also that it's not a huge thing right now, but probably growing slowly.
So we have quite a different question in the chat as the last one from the chat. It's about your relation to speedrunners, what that is. Like, for example, the game comes out and they find the bug that launches them over the whole map just hours later. So what's your relation or opinion on something like that when that happens?
Better than QA.
Yeah, I'm always impressed at like we test our games like really thoroughly and release it, and within like 5 minutes some player has found an exploit of how to get to level 1000 instantly or whatever. So I'm always impressed how people find these so quickly.
No,
But
no
yeah, I don't really understand the appeal of speedrunning personally, but the bug finding part is really interesting.
Yeah, no plan survives the contact with the users.
I just checked the current speedrun record for BeatBuddy is 1 hour 13, which is faster than I could play it. I feel like speedrunning is kind of fascinating because people kind of train stuff and play the same things over and over again, which is kind of similar to also, I feel like speedrunners and game developers play games in a similar way, where at some point, a lot of the basic stuff after, hundreds of hours of testing this out, you're just very good at it. I know back when I did the console porting for BeatBuddy, I could play the first, I think, 10 minutes of the game with my eyes closed, just from sound and haptic feedback of the controller, because I've played that so many times for testing stuff. And I feel like that's something similar to speedrunners who just, without even thinking about it, can play this stuff. And I know a lot of, especially, of indie games, game devs actually. So the other game we made afterwards was a roguelike. So speedrunning doesn't work that well with it because it's arcade. Yeah, it's kind of an arcade game, so it doesn't really have an ending. It just survives as long as possible. But I know some game devs who are also very much in contact with the speedrunning community. And for example, like if there's a bug that's only used by speedrunners, you wouldn't necessarily fix it.
No, you won't. You will not. I mean, why you actually stop the fun, right?
And sometimes the speedrunning community even requests like, hey, there's this exploit here which only works in 50% of the cases. Can you make this more deterministic so it's better to speedrun this game? That's definitely something that happens, and of course, why wouldn't you do that? Like, it's just this whole new function people add to the game, which
One very last question from the chat, maybe very quickly. Is it fun to work for mobile games, even if you can't stand playing mobile, like free-to-play games? I think this also goes for any type of genres that you don't like playing yourself in your private life. How is it working on such games?
Well, I mean, like, I do not play my own game in my private life, like, far from it, because it's not the kind of games I usually play. Like, for once, I play just only single player games, no multi. And I work for that like massive multiplayer game, right? Like, but I don't know. I kind of like do the switch between like working on it and playing it, right? So I'd say that if I actually was working in a mobile game, which I actually did at some point, like also we did some little thing, and like, even though I don't use like the phone playing, I mean, you still will do it to test it, right? But you're working, you're not playing, right? When you're your own playing on your own time, yes, play your stuff. We got a big PC right there. And it's like, oh, let's do some BioShock and stuff. But like when you're working, where you just have to play your game, you play your game. That's it. It's fun too. I mean, why not?
Yeah, I'm currently, so in Grapulus, we also have an app which doesn't have all the functions of the browser game, but kind of goes along with it. And I'm currently trying to get also into development for the mobile app more, but it's more from a technically interesting standpoint for me. I only play one mobile game because I've only ever found one that I liked, and it's not from us. So I'm not a huge mobile gamer myself, but it's interesting from a technical standpoint for me, and it's definitely something that's needed in the future mobile development. I think so. Good to know.
Making mobile games, of course, has this challenge where, like, a lot of times you need to be compatible with like pretty old devices. And ideally, you want to keep your game, I don't know what the limit is right now, I think 150 megabytes. So the game can be downloaded over mobile data on like iPhone. So you ideally want to stay under that, and that makes it, that can introduce some really interesting challenges you wouldn't have if you make a PlayStation game or something, where you just can make a 20 gigabyte game and it's fine. So the whole performance and optimization side is fun, and in general, programming is fun. So I mean, I also am more on the PC and console side, or mainly console games. And of course, I prefer to work on I prefer to work on games that I also play. That are in the same genre I also would play, but working on a mobile game can, like, or if you don't like mobile games or don't actively play them, working on one can still be super fun. It's not, and you don't play your own game for fun anyways, I feel like. So that doesn't really, even if it's exactly the genre, like if you're super much into racing games and you make one, I don't think you will play it much for fun in your free time, because you've stared at it for the last 2 years every day, 8 hours.
Yeah. yeah, that's true.
And if you do play it, you immediately only look for bugs. At least that's my. You automatically like get this view for, oh, it's broken.
Yeah, I mean, then again, if you look at a game, like sometimes, I mean, sometimes you, at least personally, sometimes I then play a game like, half a year after launch, I just, with a friend maybe, just play the game I worked on for, like, like half a year after a game comes out, you just play it for one session and kind of look at it a bit afterwards. That can be cool, but you wouldn't play it like you play normal video games, I guess.
Yeah, that game's your job.
Yeah. You also see all the bugs in other video games where normally before you wouldn't care. Like in general, I personally feel like I play way less video games than I used to play. So that's maybe also something to warn people of beforehand.
Oh, well, I play a lot of video games. Like, I don't sleep, man. Okay. No, but I mean, I've been doing this like forever. So I mean, I can't just like change, like say like I'm working, I'm playing, right? Even though I'm like working in a game, right? But that's just me, right? I really love games, man. There's a bunch of super cool games there out there. Are there coming more?
Games are really cool.
Yeah, they are cool.
That's what we can all agree on.
Yeah.
That's like Cyberpunk 2077. I'm going there, man.
If that ever comes out, sure.
Holy cow, that's gonna be awesome.
Give them time. Give them a few more weeks or months or whatever.
We'll see.
Looks already very nice.
So I guess we have answered most questions from the chat and the Miro board. So like we have one closing question, which is there anything you would like to tell our audience about the job of a games programmer that you haven't mentioned before?
It's a pretty cool. It's a pretty cool job. It's cool. But you have to. All right, gonna say it again. It's a job. All right. It's cool. I mean, it's super cool.
Maybe.
You can also see this question of kind of a too long didn't read. So what do you think should everybody take away from today?
Do it. Go ahead and do it. You want to do games? Go ahead and do it. I mean, maybe you don't like it. Maybe you just like get burnt on whatever. But like, if you really like games, no. Also, if you really like programming, because when you like games, you don't necessarily want or like programming games. But if you really like programming, go ahead and do it, man. It's super awesome. It's super cool. It gave me like a very nice moment when I was like really solving stuff. There's like some piece of code right there I'm really proud of. So I would show it to my mom. So
yeah, for me it's really cool. Like when you really work on a new feature, and then after a few months or whatever it's done, and you can say like this part of the game, see here, this is what I did, or it just, I feel like the game kind of becomes your baby a little bit, and you're like proud of it, even if you wouldn't play it yourself maybe, but like you still love it. And I think as a summary, maybe I feel like a huge theme through all the answers was basically all the important things, or the most important things you need to learn come in your job, like in your job experience. Like there's a lot of things you just cannot really know or not really learn before you actually get job experience, in my opinion. So yeah, get in there as soon as possible, I guess.
I would say I would say like something like just after. So the video game industry is as cool as I imagined, I guess, is the takeaway. And it kind of has this vibe that you would imagine from, you know, what it feels like to work on video games. It's like the people are passionate about it, and it's a very, very young industry where it's like a lot of new stuff is happening all the time. And maybe as a maybe just as a tip like look into like patterns for video game programming. Like there's a lot of like stuff that applies especially to like there's a lot of very helpful stuff if you look into like video game patterns and like architecture specifically for video games. There's a lot of interesting stuff. I guess that's a very broad thing to say, but there's like a lot of interesting things to read about like game specific patterns and game specific like programming advice.
Yep.
Nice. So I think we covered a lot of topics tonight. Thank you so much to our three experts, to Henning, Ines, and Juan, for having this discussion with us, for answering all those questions. I think that was really great. Also, big thank you to the audience for their questions. Also, for I saw in the chat that you were helping out each other, which I think is great. And I hope you will continue this on Discord, maybe today or in the next weeks. We hope to see you there again, and keep on exchanging about stuff like that. And looking at all the job offers that, for example, Ines posted. You will get an email from us in the next couple of days, very shortly, where we have a survey for all attendees, just so we can work on what did you like about the event, what did you not like, not so much maybe, so we can improve for the next events. But for today, we say thank you very much to our speakers. Thank you very much for everyone who was here. We hope you did enjoy it, all of you, and have a nice evening.
Super fun. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.